My work as a training coordinator is to train people in the communities that run reading clubs to understand what Nalibali messaging is about. And our messaging is about reading for enjoyment. And so what does that mean when we say children should be reading for enjoyment in different settings, in these spaces, informal settings that are often outside school? So my work is to inspire others into getting children excited to want to read to their children.
So, but in your daily work, how can you actually see that your work makes a difference in children's lives?
One is by noticing that there are new behavior patterns around stories and reading, that now children are more motivated to want to read voluntarily without, and I'll say, hey, read that book, but children picking up a book and reading. Also hearing a parent say that, oh, I shared a story with my child and this is what happened. And then also hearing people talking about the campaign and our work, how then it has impacted them at home, in their classroom, in their work context also, and also making sure that people have access into resources in their languages. So that's where then I see impact in observing change.
You know, when I go to a reading club and then I find children already waiting for me, I know I'm doing something right. When in a reading club, when I see a child who's never held a book ever, and then they take a book and they say, will you read to me? That means a lot to me. And then I know that I've changed someone's life. I hope.
So why do you think it's so important for children to use their native language?
Well, I think it is very important, firstly, because their language is who they are, is their identities, their heritage. Again, because one is, if my grandparents used isiXhosa and then now suddenly I don't use the language of my family, then again I am excluding myself from that family, and which is again there will be a generational gap, and also my language will die if it is not used. And then again we believe that, and also language learning theories say that one has to be proficient firstly in the first language, which is mother tongue, before you can learn the other language. Because what happens is when you learn the other language, you transfer from your mother tongue to learn the other language. Even now, as I'm talking with you, I'm transferring from isiXhosa, making sense of what I'm saying to you from isiXhosa, but then speaking it in English. So it is very important for also children to also learn in their mother tongue to develop enough skills, language skills, that they need to learn the other language. Yeah.
In our country, where most things are in English, and therefore maybe many children therefore grow up thinking that English is the only way to go. And therefore we're trying to say, I can do these things in my language. So it is really important for children to learn in their languages as well, as much as they're learning in English as well.
What way do you think reading can help children to grow?
Wow, in many ways, because once children start reading, they construct these literate identities, and again then they perceive reading as a powerful tool, because again they learn so much from it. It empowers them. Now when they feel empowered, then when they go to the society, when they interact with others, then they become better citizens, if I can say.
In an African culture, stories were told so that about to teach wrong and right. So instead of a parent to say that don't go left, don't go right, they tell you all those things in stories. And about, so they are about that sense of right and wrong, and bad and evil. We have many stories about, animals that are bad. And so they were teaching children about being good and what to do and how to act. So stories, even then, were told because of that.
And again, in reading, then we get the language we need to engage with others, even with you. Because if perhaps I was not a reader, then I will not be able to engage in this level with you. So again, reading empowers one to be able to interact with others better and more effectively, and also being able to access even your emotion actually. And then you need reading, then you use your knowledge of reading and to express yourself. So that's why it is important.